Okay, so how many of you have started your assignment? किसी ने पढ़ना शुरू किया article? Not yet. Are you
थोड़ा
going?
थोड़ा पढ़ना शुरू किया रिसर्च, मतलब अभी तक हम बाकी असाइनमेंट्स कर रहे थे ना थर्सडे तक के।
Okay, so you're probably going to spend Sunday on it, inshallah.
नहीं
बस
नहीं, ये
पढ़ना
मतलब
तो स्टार्ट किया
सैटरडे
लेकिन
संडे
बहुत ज्यादा
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
3 दिन पूरे लगा के।
Okay, inshallah. Khair, usme questions I've made them such that inshallah, when you're reading the article, you know what to focus on. So hopefully that will make the reading easier. And how many of you listened to the lecture, the talk, Healing Self and Healing Society?
Decided.
I have.
I didn't miss.
Okay, so acha. So my question is, what was his main argument?
Yes, his main argument
How
was about corruption on the world, on the earth.
Okay, so he talked
Like
about
how we
corruption.
focused on nature, basically.
And what did he say about it? What
like
did he say about corruption and or the solution to it?
he actually divided the corruption into land, water pollution, and air pollution, and then about how people are engaging in the wrong things uh, being at overconsumption, fish, watching illegal websites and all that things.
And how does he,
And
Haji, how does he propose to heal that? What is he saying about it?
He actually gave some of the names of some influencers like Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. He was like talking about to follow these people and follow some
Okay,
these
that was
traditions.
near the end, right? So in the end, he sort of showed like this picture in
Yes.
which he had Nelson Mandela.
Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. All these.
Some of the famous people whom. What about them? What do you think he was saying about them?
मैम उसने
About their
बीच में एक बात
preaching.
बोली थी which went something like one solitary person cannot help or save an age but he can only make it clear that it's on its way to a downfall or something like that. इसने यही बोला था and I believe we're in that stage क्योंकि like आप जैसे और you know हम जैसे बहुत मतलब कम ही लोग होंगे दुनिया में who genuinely care about these things and I believe we are too far deep into this problem to actually like get out of it. Like I don't think plastic waste के बारे में हम लोग कुछ कर सकते हैं और and all that. Like
Okay,
do you
okay.
genuinely believe कि हम इसके बारे में आप कुछ कर
बस
सकते हैं?
मुझे आपसे एक चीज ये पूछनी थी. उन्होंने 3 चीजें बताई थी जो उन्होंने बोला था कि वर्ल्ड जो यूनिवर्स की क्रिएशन है उसकी क्या वजह थी. तो पहली चीज बताई थी कल्टीवेशन ऑन अर्थ. दूसरी चीज
Any
बताई थी
purpose of a human being? ये पूछ रहे हैं.
yeah purpose of
Human
human being.
Cultivation
existence.
of
Yes.
earth or
Cultivation
stewardship
of earth,
and
worship, and third one was stewardness, I think.
stewardship.
अच्छा सही है.
वो
Stewardship.
मुझे थोड़ा सा समझ में नहीं आया तीसरा पॉइंट.
ओके, तो उसको आप यूजुअली उर्दू में जो वर्ड यूज करते हैं वो खलीफा
खिलाफा।
यूज करते हैं. खिलाफत
Yeah.
या खलीफा, that you are a khalifa on the earth. So let me look at this. So Hassan is saying that there were 3 purposes of a human being mentioned, ठीक है, using ayahs in the Quran. So he said cultivation of earth, and that is the point that he's taking forward and saying कि इंसान cultivation की बजाय क्या कर रहा है, उसको pollute करने लग गया है, right?
Yes.
And the second one he said was worship, क्योंकि जो आयत है वो ayat goes that we are not created, that human beings were not created except to worship God. And I said that, you know, that word itself is very heavily, you know, the meaning of it needs to be looked at. What does it mean to be an abd, or what does ibadah mean? The third was stewardship, which means khalifa. So isme jo root letters hain, right? When we're talking about the word khalifa, the root letters are kha, lam, and fa. Khalafa comes for something that is behind you, ठीक है, आपके पीछे. इख्तिलाफ किसको कहते हैं? इख्तिलाफ में भी ये 3 रूट लेटर्स. दैट मीन्स व्हेन पीपल आर डिसएग्रीइंग अबाउट समथिंग, ठीक है. तो खिलाफत का जो मीनिंग है वो ये होता है दैट यू आर basically, stewardship means that you are the follower. You can also use it as a follower because you're basically following the prophet. Ideally speaking, you are following all of the prophets that were sent to humans to guide them. Okay, so the purpose of insan to be a khalifa on earth means that we become such people who, again, take care about ourselves. First of all, take care of ourselves, and then people who are dependent on us. So stewardship में ये sense आता है कि आप you are caretakers again. तो cultivation of earth में भी caretaking की बात आ रही है. You are taking care of the earth itself, and then khilafat में और stewardship में ये बात आ रही है that you are taking care of people around you, human beings around you, right? So essentially that is what a khalifa is. ठीक है. खैर उसमें अब ये we're not going into the political understanding of the term, because there will be different parties who understand it differently and define the khilafat differently. But we do call the first four caliphs of Islam the leaders, the four khalifas, right? So again, what do we mean by that word khalifa? That they were leaders, they took care of the Islamic community. And I don't know how many of you have ever heard or read up about leadership itself. What is leadership? I think Simon Sinek is a very famous person who writes about leadership. Because leadership is not just, it's not like dictatorship, right? Who is a good leader? A good leader is not someone who is just, causing...
Leads by an example.
Yeah, they themselves are a model and an example. And then they also are like shepherds. So that is why, all the prophets were interestingly shepherds. And what does that mean? Again, that they are sort of taking the flock together. That is, I think, one of the greatest things that a leader does, is that they lead by example, and then they are sort of behind the flock, taking care of them. They're not leading in the front per se. They don't have to be right at the front and want everybody to follow them or sare unke piche chale. But interestingly, they are the ones at the back who are sort of like just looking over, taking care. It might be a company, right, that they are leading,
Like
managing.
cultivate a belief and a society leaders.
Cultivating belief. अच्छा हाँ, yeah, that's a good way to put it. ठीक है. दूसरा ये है कि अच्छा चलिए हमने लीडरशिप की बात कर ली, और
वैसे ये एक वॉर्स की भी बात की थी कि किसी की सेइंग्स थी कि वॉर बस एक एक्सटेंशन है पॉलिटिक्स का.
Exactly. So he's saying war is
extension
not
है.
something, and ये आपकी क्योंकि और readings में भी ये बात दोबारा आएगी कि war per se is not something which is यानी आप ये कह लें कि just like when human beings were made, ठीक है, what did the angels say?
No, he actually talked about his the budgets of our army, even of Pakistan, USA, Saudi Arabia. Even though we don't have wars so many, but we spend so many of our budgets on not just Pakistan but even Saudi Arabia, USA, and many more countries. So we are actually there's a very imbalance in that budget.
बिल्कुल imbalance है budget में, because again he said that this is the last resort, right? यानी उल्टा समझता है इंसान कि वॉर जो है वो कोई सोल्यूशन नहीं है किसी चीज़ का. जब बाकी सारे जो मेथड्स हैं वो फेल कर जाते हैं, तो दिस इज बेसिकली अ फेलियर. ठीक है, अ फेलियर दैट अ पर्सन, यानी दिस इज द लास्ट रिजॉर्ट. जब फेल हो जाते हैं ऑल अदर मेथड्स, देन वी रिजॉर्ट टू वॉर. एंड दैट इज व्हाई द एंजल्स, दैट इज द क्वेश्चन दे आस्क्ड अल्लाह, राइट, कि ये इंसान जो आपने बनाया है और ये दुनिया में जब जाएगा तो क्या करेगा? फसाद फैलाएगा और खून बहाएगा. So that is what they said. They will shed blood. So they knew this nature of insan. This is one of the negative natures, you can say, right? This is one of, if you can divide human nature into positives and negatives, this is one of the lows that a person can go to. If they fail to do something in the right manner, they will resort to the wrong thing, right? The wrong method to go about it. Just like even taking care of children, a lot of times like I've said, I think in previous classes, कि हमारे DNA में ये चीज़ आ गई है कि we think that डंडे के जोर पे बच्चे को जो आप यानी डांट के या कोई भी चीज़ सिखाएंगे, if you want to discipline them and you want to make them good children, तो हमें लगता है कि हमें ये करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है ना? So there are a lot of jokes about it, and yes, I mean, even I laugh about it now. Once upon a time I didn't like them, but yeah, I mean, क्योंकि हमारे culture में ऐसा है, तो sometimes you have to understand the humor behind it also, but then also realize the seriousness of it. So gentle parenting is actually very much part of Islam, because we're not supposed to be harsh. ठीक है, ये बाद में आपकी readings में जो आपकी module 5 है, ठीक है, उसमें I think, yeah, gentleness का एक chapter है. That is a book by Imam Al-Haddad, or Imam, I forgot the name of the author. I'm mixing two of the authors. जिनकी books में से मैंने chapters लिए हुए हैं, ठीक है. So this is within spirituality. You will be reading that as well. So okay, so I think maybe not all of you have listened, heard, or seen this talk, Healing Self, Healing Society. 3 or 4 of you have participated. But this is a talk which I always ask about even in the finals, okay? So you must, it's like mandatory to listen to it. And I will, if you want, we can listen to like 20%, like 20 minutes of it in class tomorrow, if that will help. You can dobara sun ke bhi, you can discuss more about it, okay? As a class, but not the whole talk. However, we can listen to around 20 minutes of it. Okay, so all of you who haven't heard it or seen it, you must. Okay, so at the end of it, does anyone want to tell me what they got out of it? So one of you said, I think Muhammad Aoun, you said, okay, we are too far into this problem and it doesn't seem like there's any way we can get out of it, right? Any pollution ho gayi hai, ya insaan ka overall jo gir jana hai, theek hai? What does he say about humans?
Ma'am,
मैम मैं
that
बस
they're
ये कह रहा
becoming
था
like
कि
jellyfish.
जब उसने
Jellyfish.
like he said
I think
something
I've
about
They're becoming toxic day by day.
I think Mohammed Ahsan said jellyfish. So jellyfish,
ma'am,
पूरी वो
I
एक
did.
पूरी बात वो करता है, एक किताब में,
Yes,
he puts
jellyfish.
a book,
Jellyfish
right?
consumes with
It's a mindless consumer, the predator.
Brainless consumer.
mindless
He has
He
said
was
that.
talking that the big fish are dying and there's a rise in jellyfish. So he kind of compared that if the human beings are becoming more of like jellyfish and we are kind of becoming like the lowest of the lives on the earth, and
Brainless
People.
consumption.
ended.
And what does he compare that with? I found that very interesting. He's comparing
eagle. He was comparing it with eagle and rats and cockroaches.
Okay,
Yes.
no. So you mixed it up. देखो, eagle जो है,
No, like for the lowest form
and-
in the form of the earth,
Yeah.
he was giving references to cockroaches and rats. But
ठीक,
for
ठीक,
the like for someone like a very
like a higher
higher authority, he was giving references to eagles and
eagles, lions, या आपने वो देखी हो, orca देखी हो अगर, ठीक है? If you've looked at orca is known as the killer whale as well, ठीक है? So it's sort of higher on its in the food chain. It's pretty high up. लेकिन there is some elegance to it. There's no doubt about it, right? And that's why people sort of keep them and for shows, and they're captured for shows, which is pretty sad. Lekin, if you look at the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reason he was looking at this, he gave an example of a book in which it's amazing how like around 85 to 95% of fish or ocean life is extinct now, right? Except jellyfish, which are thriving. So ulta kaam ho raha hai. And if you remember your Hadith Jibreel, उसमें क्या mention था कि everything will be upside down. यानी कि जब आप ईमान, इस्लाम, ihsan के बाद जो discussion थी, it was about the end of times, right? End of times के बारे में क्या mention था? That part of the hadith which is explained, okay, what it means is that, does anyone remember?
Oh yes, ma'am. He talked about. He said something like the signs of corruption on land are like wildfires. They
हाँ, ये भी था.
soil के कुछ था and all that.
Particularly
Miss, in the video,
Degradation.
he connected the pollutions
Locusts.
and signs with the signs of the last day as well.
Yes, बिल्कुल. End of time से भी किया है, ठीक है? That is why I think one of you said that it is, you know, it sounds as if it's out of control. ये बात ये इसीलिए आती है ना कि अगर आप ये कह रहे हैं कि end of times के signs है, then you sort of go like, well, what can we do? Well, what can we do about it? ठीक है, लेकिन चलें. That's why I want you to think about it. कि उसने फिर भी कहा क्या था? I mean, do we have any control over it? Yeah, how can we do
And
anything
he
about
said
it?
we have an ability to be good.
Sorry, क्या? I didn't get that. Muhammad Adil Rizwan has his hand up. Do you want, is your mic working, or you can even chat, you can type it something in the chat box.
Miss, I actually have a question. In the video, he shared a reference from the Quran that all the bad that is happening is like a negative consequence of our action, of man's action. And he further gave an example of all the dictators and the people who spread fasad in the world. But he also talked about there are positive consequences to a man's actions as well when he shared the pictures of his teachers and the good people from the world. But he didn't elaborate what were the positive consequences. But on the other hand, in the negative consequences, he did talk about how we're affecting the wildlife, how we're affecting other people.
That's a very good point. कि अच्छा चलो वो नाम तो सारे mention कर दिए, Nelson Mandela था उसमें, and even Jesus picture, and right, like he was saying that there are such people. Essentially, what he's saying is that the human soul can rise and it can fall as well. Okay? That is the idea. And he gave examples that there are so many people who have sort of reached those heights as well. Okay? ऐसी बात नहीं है कि सभी गिर गए हैं और कोई hope ही नहीं है. So with those pictures, he was giving that hope. कि there are people who have risen above angels as well. कि जब इंसान जो अपनी free will को इस्तेमाल करके, that is why I want you to make these connections now. कि जब free will इंसान इस्तेमाल करता है, then they can rise above angels. So you're asking what are the positive consequences, and he didn't really give examples, but that is why there was another slide that he showed, and he said that these are my teachers. So people he himself benefited from, right? So those people definitely had a positive influence on him, which is why he was showing and sharing with the world. Then, even then there is hope. So just like even when we're talking about pollution, there's so many people who are conserving, right, energy. There are saving national parks. They're taking care of the natural environment. So there is always hope, again, because free will insan ki ye hai कि you can either go this way or that way. Are you willing to completely ignore कि अच्छा बस ऐसा ही है and we can't really do anything about it? या हम कुछ कर सकते हैं इस बारे में?
Just towards the end, he says that the problem isn't really that complicated, but we fail to accept it.
Exactly. So that's a very important point. That first of all, awareness and then acceptance. He said it's not complicated, right? Just hold on, I need to plug in my laptop. Right, so he says it's not complicated, right? And then he talks about sins as well. And may, jab wo ye baat karta hai, that the problem is not complicated, but then he talks about sins as well. So it's like, sure, first
he talked about the hot and cold sins.
Yeah, hot sins and cold sins, right? So he's saying, ek zahir ki baat kare, apparent, and then he talked about the hidden, the batin. And from your understanding, hopefully, in reading about Islam and Iman up till now, आप ये देखेंगे कि he is sort of mixing them up without stating it, ठीक है? Without outrightly stating it, he has been, the entire talk is, revolving around, whatever is in the zahir or the apparent natural world, right?
Try coffee.
Sorry, just hold on. your volume, my volume.
भी आप उठ ही नहीं रही.
Okay, is my voice clear?
Yes, miss.
Yes, this is clear.
So Nimra, yes, Nimra, you want to say something?
Yeah, miss, I have a question. Like, इसका मतलब ये तो नहीं है कि जैसे इन्होंने सारे problems पहले discuss किए हैं, उसके बाद did he not conclude like कि हमारा अगर purpose हमें defined हो, अगर हमें अच्छे से पता हो हमारा purpose which is not just consumption, तो हम काफी righteously act कर सकते हैं.
Bilkul. So that's why he's giving the purpose of insan and then sort of showing us that we've lost that purpose, right? We were supposed to cultivate.
Yeah, you lost it exactly. Yeah.
Yes, that is why we are falling into this abyss. Okay, so it's not about consumption. It's not about mindless consumption. It's not for that we were sent here. It is a higher purpose. Okay, so there is a higher purpose to the human being. And then he's sort of talking about the apparent and the hidden. Okay, that is how he goes towards sin. That is, you know, the connection that is being made is that if we sort of purify our inner selves, okay, so this is sort of when you study the spirituality module, the fifth module, we will talk about purification of the soul or the purification of the heart. Okay, so when we are purifying our inner, it will also purify. It should ideally purify everything that is, you know, zahir or apparent. That is why, you know, the mention of the end come in at the end, right at the end when he says the problem is not complicated. Okay, so Muhammad Aslan, okay, I'm first going to call upon Muhammad Arij.
Whereas he also discussed about two types, which were planned obsolescence and perceived obsolescence. तो मिस मेरा एक सवाल है कि जैसे उसमें उन्होंने बोला कि आजकल जो है वो इंसान इंटेंशनली ऐसे स्टफ बनाते हैं जो कि जल्दी एक्सपायर हो जाए ताकि लोग जल्दी से जल्द न्यू वो नया बाय करें. तो ये भी एज अ टाइप ऑफ करप्शन हुई.
It is because you see, उसमें यानी उसकी intention क्या होती है? Intention is always that they want to earn more. And interestingly, जब आप business studies करते हैं, profit की जब आप बात पढ़ते हैं, you know, it really depends, of course, on the person who's teaching and, you know, the person who's writing that book on business. But you cannot ignore business ethics. ठीक है? यानी अगर आप सिर्फ ये सोचें कि बस मेरा profit increase हो जाए, that's all, right? Then of course that you're going to come up with these tactics कि हम, you know, सस्ते में ऐसा कपड़ा बना लें जो कि, you know, लॉन आजकल 2 सालों में फट जाता है or something, right? I mean that. What does that mean? That in 1 year a person is buying like pata nahi kitne pieces of cloth, right? So in a way, yes, if it's done by the companies for just simply profit, that is why it's being explained, it's being mentioned as corruption. Okay. On the flip side, you have examples of the companions at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, in which when they earned like what was enough for 1 day. So they earned, let's suppose one person had a shop and he earned what was enough for 1 day, you know, for his family. He used to just close his shop and say that I'm going to give the opportunity to my brother के साथ भी एक और शॉप है, आप वहां से खरीद लें. So he has seen कि अच्छा मैंने इतना कमा लिया जितना मुझे चाहिए था, and now instead of earning extra profit, he used to care about his brother and used to, you know, shut his shop and go home ताकि उसके भाई भी, उसका भाई जो है, you know, meaning the Muslim brother, the person, you know, next to him can also earn as much as he wants. Okay, this is again a very high level of, what would you call it, ethics. Okay, a very high level
compassion.
It's compassion, exactly, because it's his right to earn more. ठीक है, इसमें यानी अगर आप ये detail depth में जाएंगे, it's still his right. He can earn extra, he can earn more. But it really, that's sort of, you know, when we're studying purification of the heart, that's sort of what we're going to look at. Acha, Habiba.
जब हमने ये वीडियो देखी तो जो है इसमें जो वर्ड्स को डिस्क्राइब किया गया है, करप्शन हैज अपीयर्ड ऑन लैंड एंड ऑन सी बिकॉज ऑफ व्हाट पीपल हैव अर्न बाय देयर एक्ट्स। अगर हम करप्शन को देखें इंग्लिश वर्ड तो एज ए स्टूडेंट जो है, मगर जैसे मैंने खुद के ऊपर ये रखकर सोचा कि मैं करप्शन में जो है खुद को जो है इंक्लूड नहीं कर सकती। अगर मैं इसका वैसे मीनिंग देखूं फसाद, तो मतलब मैं फसाद को भी खुद पर नहीं ले सकती। तो जब मैंने वीडियो देखी और जब सारा इन्होंने बताया पॉल्यूशन के बारे में, इसी के बारे में, और जो है इंसान की हैबिट के बारे में कि वो इसे चेंज कर सकता है और डेवलप कर सकता है, और ये कि जो है एक तरफ अच्छाई है तो वहीं पर जो है बुराई भी है। इंसान ही मतलब जो है अच्छा भी कर सकता है और बुरा भी कर सकता है। यानी कुरान पाक की एक आयत से जो है इन्होंने मतलब जो दुनिया में जितनी भी इंसान मौजूद हैं, यानी चाहे वो स्टूडेंट्स हों, चाहे वो पॉलिटिकल हों, चाहे वो फैक्ट्रीज हों या कंपनीज हो, एम्प्लॉयर हों, मतलब एक वर्ड से उन्होंने इतना डीप कनेक्शन लिया कि उन्होंने सबको ही एक वर्ड्स में इंक्लूड कर लिया और सबको ही मतलब बताया कि जो है हर एक पर्सन जो है करप्शन में इन्वॉल्व है। तो ये जो है मुझे आखिर में जो है अपनी ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग करके कि यानी जो है आप भी इन्वॉल्व हो इतनी छोटी छोटी चीजों में, तो ये
You have something that's supposed to
अच्छा
take
था।
like 8 volts. You have like a charger. Yeah, it's supposed to take like 8 volts. And you plug this in. Yeah, right. Well, like when you plug something to the wall.
Okay.
You can have something that takes way more amperage.
Thank you so much, Abu Habiba. Let me just.
Ma'am, I have a question as well.
Okay, Zanira. Just hold on. I just want to clarify, Umm Habiba, कि आपने ये point ये note किया है या आपका question था? I just want that clarification because I was taking out Timothy from the class chat because I had said before कि अगर ये दोबारा होगा तो I will just need to kick the person out. एक दफा joke हो गया ना, अब दोबारा नहीं करना चाहिए, ठीक है? So I'm sorry, Umm Habiba, I was listening to you and at the end of it I was removing someone from the chat. Acha, from the classroom. Okay, so sorry. आप सिर्फ ये clarify कर दें Umm Habiba that this was a message or yani this was your comment or was there a question at the end which I missed?
बस ये सिर्फ एक ही कमेंट था कि कुरान पाक की जो है एक आयत से ही उन्होंने इतनी डीपली कनेक्शन सबको दी है कि जो है दुनिया के पीछे जो कुछ चल रहा है और या जो कुछ भी हुआ है वो एक कुरान पाक की एक छोटी सी आयत में डिस्क्राइब कर दिया है, उसके पीछे इतना डीप मतलब है।
Right. Jazakallah. The question तो मैंने miss की ना कि yes, I had heard that. So yes, thank you. Just wanted to confirm कि मैंने miss नहीं किया question. And then Neera, can you please repeat? I'm really sorry about the pause in the middle, but yes, can you please repeat your question, Neera?
Yes, can you hear me?
Ji.
In one part of his speech, he says he discusses about this three problems like autism, obesity, and diabetes.
Right.
So obesity and diabetes are like clear, but autism is not. Like, how is the lack of communication linked to a religion? But I can make a link with the example like you gave just right now about the work ethics. So can I link that to the autism thing to like just from my understanding?
So okay, so I think there are two things to look at. एक होता है कि because autism is genetic, right? A person who ends up being diagnosed with autism, that's a different story क्योंकि वो बात है, but then he's giving all of the facts के because हमारा DNA जो है वो affect हो जाता है, and it's not 100% clear what causes autism, but apparently it is all of these technology. There's so many studies that go into it and we're still not sure what really causes it. But what he said was that it's not in your hands. Somebody is diagnosed as autistic, it's increasing, just like when he gave the example of jellyfish कि jellyfish जो है वो कोई भी फायदा नहीं देती है समंदर में, सिर्फ नुकसान पहुंचाती है, ठीक है? उसी तरह ये जो बीमारियां नहीं निकल रही, so just like cancer as well as autism, unfortunately these are again diseases that are caused by what humans have, the choices that humans have made. ठीक है, it's because of that. However, जब एक कोई personal एक, for example my cousin, if I may mention her, her daughter is autistic, ठीक है. So now if you look at it individually, I do want to point that out. Individually अगर कोई इस test से गुजर रहा है that they are they have an autistic child, this will be looked at separately because Allah is just. So whatever test that person is put into, it becomes a means of their reward. So even people around her and even herself, when she started blogging now about it, there are things that you can learn from difficult situations, and there are some अजीब बात ये होती है कि वो उस situation को फिर reverse भी नहीं करना चाह रहे, because they've learned so much as a family, they've grown together as a family. And there's a book I always mention, which I think इसके ऊपर एक movie भी बनी थी, and I will come back to your question. I'm sort of digressing a bit as usual, but there was a movie I think also on it. There's a book on which it's based, Wonder. I think it's called Wonder. I'm forgetting the author. And it's again about a child that is born with such deformity, facial deformity, right? That no matter how many operations are done, it doesn't make a difference. Okay? And at the end of it, wo ajeeb, I will share it with you later as well. However, later ka hoga. I think I won't get time. We might just not be.
Yes, I have a question regarding this.
Okay, hold on. Let me just answer the nearest question. So again,
मैम आपकी voice lag कर रही है.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hold on. I think it was my internet. Is it better now? Can you hear me? Ji, is it better or is it still lagging?
मैम अभी भी lag कर रही है.
brief moments के लिए ना आपकी आवाज lag हो जाती है.
Okay, just hold on. Let me see. Okay, so hold on. Zinira ने जो सवाल किया था autism का, even if it's lagging, can you understand what I'm saying, or is it causing problems with understanding the lecture? So chale, let me complete what I have to say and then I'll see. ठीक है? Maybe I'm hoping कि वो internet connection का कोई मसला था, and I'm hoping it'll be fine in a while. So what Zinira was asking was lack of communication.
Ma'am, we still can't hear you. आपकी आवाज अटक रही है.
मैम आपकी आवाज बहुत ज़्यादा.
Okay, just hold on. What we can do is.
बहुत ज़्यादा ही lag.
जी मैम कुछ नहीं.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss. Hello.
जी, Mohammed Hassan, Maz, nah, just hold on. Let me complete. Zinira का जो question था कि देखिए lack of communication कैसे एक example बन सकती है, ठीक है? So lack of communication, the example he gave, he was actually, mentioning number one, the disease autism, and then he said because essentially what it is that people are unable to communicate with each other, ठीक है? So even when we are on our cell phones and unable to talk to each other. यानी वैसे तो communication is a positive thing, right? You can communicate with people who are all over across, on the other side of the world. Lekin if you're in the same room and two people are on their cell phones and not communicating with each other, that is a big problem, okay? Because lack of communication and lack of empathy with each other is exactly what leads to mental health issues. यानी mental health
Miss, I have a question.
कम होते अगर हम आपस में ज़्यादा connected होते, जैसे हम एक ज़माने में हुआ करते थे, right? So the more that we're connected and the more we can sort of be there for each other, the less chance there is. ठीक है? जी, for mental health issues. जी, was it Maz?
Miss,
जी.
Miss, I have a question.
Okay.
Miss, I understand how the communication is linked to autism, but a disease that is genetic, how is the speaker communication isn't the only problem
Yeah, not just
when someone has
communication.
autism,
वही मैं
right?
बात कर रही थी कि
So
DNA के
how
जो
is he connecting?
yeah, so the DNA की बात हो रही है, यानी जो genetic है, वो over time change होता है because of the choices we have made, and again using a lot of plastic and even technology, यानी जो rays हैं, whether it's microwave rays, and that's I know because it's an everyday thing. We don't think about
Isn't
it.
that not isn't that not the fault of the person who has autism because
That's
it's
exactly what I'm
dependent on
saying.
genes,
That's why
unlike obesity and
yeah, that's why I gave you the example of this book Wonder, which I want to get a little bit into, लेकिन वही बात है कि not today, क्योंकि मैंने कुछ और भी आपको कराना है अभी. So like, this book Wonder was about the person or the family that is being tested by something that they haven't done, and that's why I give the example of my cousin. कि it's not her fault that her child got autism. ठीक है? That is a test that was destined for her. That is how we will look at it. However, free will वहाँ पर तो आप उसको देखेंगे, मतलब this is again teaching you when you're going to be focusing on free will and when you're going to be focusing on predestination. So this is not because of the person's free will या उसका कोई गलत किया है जिसकी वजह से ये हुआ है, but because as a society, people have taken these wrong decisions. ठीक है? That affects the entire society, the entire world as a whole. Okay, so we're going to stop here. We're going to stop the discussion of the talk right here. Those of you who haven't listened should go ahead and listen to it. Now, if you can look at the next, आपकी जो human origins की reading थी, उसके बाद एक छोटी सी reading है, ठीक है, on the true nature of prophecy. We're going back and looking at Imam Ghazali's reading. So who is Imam Ghazali? Imam Ghazali was not from a family of scholars, because usually, you find these famous scholars whose entire families used to be scholars. So they're basically, it's like a family thing. He did not have a family of scholars. However, he did have one uncle who was a scholar. He was a student of Imam Juwaini, who was a famous Shafi'i. We're going to do this later when we're doing law, so don't worry if you don't know. Shafi is one of the school of thoughts of law, and he was an Ash'ari. ठीक है? ये आपको पता है Ash'ari. And Imam Ghazali is well known as not just a scholar. He was, proficient in logic. He was proficient in literature, and it's particularly his literary writings which are very, very famous. The way he wrote, because you can, pick up a commentary on the Quran and commentary on Hadith, and it will be, it might be just Urdu mein agar likha hua hai, ek salis Urdu ho sakti hai. It might be very good Urdu, but having a particular literary style, he's known for that. So Imam Ghazali was even known for his literary style. He was extremely clever, extremely intelligent. He was born in Samarkand, and I've mentioned that somewhere in Iraq, right? But actually, you can say it's between Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and Iraq, present day, okay? And I think, just hold on, yeah. So he taught in Baghdad when he was very, very young. Since I'm not sure, just hold on, let me confirm his place of birth. But he taught in Baghdad when he was very, very young. So he gained fame, right? He gained fame very quickly. Whenever he used to argue, he used to win that argument. So he quickly learned that being clever brought you fame. And that is why Nizam al-Mulk, who was the leader at that time, around somewhere in the 1200s, he was asked to teach in Baghdad, and he was teaching hundreds of students when one day suddenly he felt that he had doubts. So now this is going to get interesting, okay? So when we're doing the 5th module, we're also going to be reading, his biography a little bit more, in which he writes about how and what happened, right, when he started to have doubts. So he says in his own words, he says that I couldn't teach anymore because my tongue did not assist me. So he was imagining in a very young age, you reach a very high level and you know about all of the Islamic sciences. He was a great faqih, he was an expert at jurisprudence as well. Okay? But he started to have doubts. And what exactly was that doubt about? It was basically in his faith. Okay? That doubt was in his faith. So this reading that we're going to look at right now, 109 आपके पैकेज का 109 है, पेज नंबर 109. No, I think 111. It's starting from 111. ठीक है? Page 111 of your package. Okay, so true nature of prophecy. So he wrote this after having studied philosophy, and after those doubts, there was a time when he says that God put a light in my heart. And then he's writing about how do you understand what is true. ठीक है, truth के बारे में इंसान को कैसे पता चलता है? So this is the question here.
Miss, which package is this? Package 1 or package 2?
Sorry, I
It's in
can't.
package 1.
It's the first package. Yeah. It's the first package 111. जो आपकी जो दूसरा package है, module 5, we haven't reached there yet. But when we do the first reading, it's going to be again Imam Ghazali. Okay, so how do we know? How do we know what is true? The source of knowledge, okay? And I mentioned this a little bit before in the very first lecture, okay, about the senses, and then he talks about discernment. So he says there are the 5 senses that tell us, whatever is around us, and then when we grow a little bit older, he gives the example of knowing relationships. And a child knows that so and so is their aunt or uncle, etc. Right? So ये relationships के बारे में जो पता लगता है एक बच्चे को, that's not through his senses, is it? That's basically the relationships he has. तो ये हो गई. He calls it the power of distinguishing or tamyiz. This is page number 112, 112, very first line on the first page. He says this is a fresh stage in his development, and he now apprehends more than the world of sensibles, and none of these additional factors, that is, relations, etc., exists in the world of sense. Then जब तक वो बच्चा छोटा बच्चा जो है वो सिर्फ senses के ऊपर एतमाद करता है, just getting to know about the world around him through senses, he can't understand, relationships. But when he grows older, around age 6, 7, he knows about more, in depth about the relationships that he has with others in this world. Then he goes on to talk about intellect. So इससे भी higher क्या चीज़ है? Intellect है और अकल. And remember, I gave you the example of a mountain that's far away. It's your akal or intellect that tells you that it's really far away and it's not just 10 inches tall, right? So if you look at the highlighted part, I think you can tell. Can you tell in your reading where the highlighted part is? Moreover, just as the man at the stage of discernment would reject and disregard the objects of intellect were these two presented to him, so some intellectuals reject and disregard the objects of prophetic revelation. Essentially, what is he arguing? He's saying कि जो बच्चा discernment पे पहुंचा है सिर्फ, तो चलें आप कह लें maybe 4 years old, वैसे तो intellect उसका साथ मतलब होता है but developed नहीं होता, right? So a lot of things the child cannot understand until he's older. So his intellect isn't developed. Similarly, he's saying a person who is very intellectual and at the level of the intellect, he cannot understand what is even higher, and what is even higher is prophecy. So he's saying prophecy is basically a stage higher than the intellect. That is his argument. Okay, now look at God, the next paragraph. God Most High, however, has favored his creatures by giving them something analogous to the special faculty of prophecy, namely dreams. So he's giving the example of dreams. कि prophecy का हमें तो नहीं पता कि how exactly does it happen, right? The prophet had 3 types of revelation. Does anyone know? Can you quickly let me know about the 3 types of revelation? यानी एक तो ये था कि Hazrat Jibreel, the angel Jibreel used to come to him, ठीक है? In the form of a man. How else?
Inspiration through divine inspiration.
Yeah, so divine inspiration, which was जिसके बारे में hadith में आता है that the companion said that whenever he used to have that revelation, that kind of revelation,
Sweat.
yes,
Perspirate.
Yes, there would
he
be
would hear ringing bells.
Exactly. So it's like breathe the sweat on his forehead, and
his waiting.
And once he was on his camel, right, and the camel sort of sat down.
Yeah.
And with the weight
His
of
weight
the
would
revelation, the
increase.
camel also sat down. Okay. So that
And this was the hardest on him.
Yes, this was the hardest on him. So, and the third way is when the angel Jibreel came in his actual form. Okay, and in the form of a man or in an actual form. So we don't know exactly the nature of that except what the companions just witnessed. Okay, so what Imam Ghazali is saying is the dream hai, the dream state of a human being is almost like prophecy. It's like a part of prophecy, because that is also hadith, that the righteous dream is like 1/40th of prophethood. Okay, so that is why he's putting that here. Okay, that's something analogous to the special faculty of prophecy. Okay, the next page, he says, okay, doubt. So can you look at the second paragraph on page, again, it's 112 of your package, like in right hand side page. Doubt about prophetic revelation is either doubt of its possibility in general. So now remember that Imam Ghazali is a person who himself has experienced doubt. Okay? He himself has experienced doubt. So अब वो अगर लिख रहा है, तो it is actually definitely a person who's gone through something, and if he writes about it, there is more weight in his argument. So he's saying that it could be doubt of its possibility in general, or about the doubt of its actual occurrence, or about the doubt of the attainment of it by a specific individual. So अगर आप ये 3 चीजें देखें, let me write it on the board for you. So I'll just put it here. So he's saying number 1, doubt about its possibility in general. Any prophecy itself, is it really true? Can I just, believe in prophecy about, in humans becoming prophets, like being in touch with, you know, an angel? Can I really believe that? So doubt of its possibility in general, what you will call it. ये जो question आता है ना, what doubt in what is, ठीक है? अच्छा, the second is, he says doubt of its actual occurrence. Did it really happen?
वैसे ये फर्स्ट और सेकंड सेम नहीं है काफी?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
द ए और बी काफी सिमिलर लग रहे हैं.
अच्छा, मैं आपको डिफरेंस बताती हूँ. So in general, first है ना, वो general की बात है, यानी कि generally do you believe in prophecy? Can a human being you know, be visited by an angel, and you know, can God communicate to him? ठीक है, यानी generally is it possible? और जो B है वो ये कि can you, यानी do you believe कि actual occurrence, for example, did it happen to Hazrat Musa? Did it happen at the time of Jesus? ठीक है ना, यानी your actual occurrence with particular people, did it actually occur? एक तो उसकी possibility of occurring itself, कि क्या is it even possible, and the second is did it occur? Doubt of the attainment of it by a specific individual. Now the third one is ke who, you can almost say whom did it happen with? So let's suppose you believe in, you know, the truth of prophecy, that yes, it is true. Are you going to believe in a particular specific individual? इसके साथ ऐसा हुआ. So let's suppose a person believes that, you know, Jesus was a prophet, but then they don't believe that Muhammad was a prophet. There could be that doubt in a person. ठीक है? So he is dividing these three, you know, doubt into these three things. यानी in general, prophecy में आप believe कर रहे हैं कि नहीं. Secondly, are you believing in its actual occurrence? Did it happen or not? Did it in reality? Even if it can happen. चलिए इसको void के बजाय ना यहाँ पे can it. I think that will be better. ठीक है, can it really happen? Generally यानी, ठीक है, general occurrence of prophecy. Did it really happen, and did it really happen with this person? It's like this doubt. ठीक है, did it happen with a particular specific individual? Did it happen with a specific individual? अच्छा, अब ये तीन doubts का वो solution क्या बताते हैं? Now the next paragraph you can skip it. Medical science and astronomy की थोड़ी सी बात है यहाँ पे. Some people criticize that you don't really need to know that. ठीक है, but on the next page, he says the other properties of, यानी this is 113, ठीक है, page number 113, और जो आपकी excerpt है उसमें page 66 है. The other properties of prophetic revelation are apprehended only by immediate experience. Now he is talking about immediate experience. ज़ौक़ जिसको कहते हैं. अच्छा, उर्दू में ज़ौक़ किसको कहते हैं? जो कोई चीज़ आप टेस्ट करते हैं ना, किसी चीज़ का टेस्ट होता है वो ज़ौक़ होता है उसका. ठीक है, so taste और ज़ौक़, he calls that immediate experience. तो जब तक आप कोई चीज़ immediate, for example, a person who has not really dreamt at all, let's suppose कि किसी ने कोई ख्वाब यानी देखा भी हो, याद नहीं रहता, तो अगर वो first time सुनेगा कि ख्वाब में फला फला हुआ, जो भी हुआ, whatever, somebody's talking about their dream, you have not immediately experienced it, and hence you cannot understand it. Similarly, कोई नया chocolate कोई flavor or some other flavor of ice cream is launched, and a friend of yours goes and eats it, ठीक है, और वो आके आपको बताएगा या बताएगी कि it is so yummy, and then they're trying to explain what it tastes like, but then you will have to go and taste it for yourself. ठीक है, जब तक आप वो immediate experience हासिल नहीं करेंगे, you will not be able to appreciate what he or he is telling you about that ice cream flavor. ठीक है, so he is saying particularly कि immediate experience जो है वो क्या है? It is from the practice of the mystic way, which is what? Sufism. Now, okay, I'm going to again ask you, what do you know about Sufism? all of you, any of you, any आपने कुछ ना कुछ सुना होगा इसके बारे में, हमारे culture में how is it known, but what do you know about Sufism?
मैंने ये सुना है कि like in religion we are taught about how to find God in our prayers and in the pillars of Islam and articles of faith, but in Sufism
Find God
they
चाहिए ये
also
लिखिए, ठीक है? Find
they
God
also
चाहिए.
teach they also teach about finding God in every single things around us, like the
ठीक है.
materialism things also.
So yeah, to finding God even in the mundane, ठीक है? यानी basically आपने हर चीज अपनी जिंदगी में इसके साथ connect करनी है with the sacred. Anybody else? Okay, so apart from you three have participated a lot. Anybody else apart from the three of you?
Miss, I've also heard that they give up on all of their or most of their worldly desires.
Okay, so let me put that here. Asceticism, ठीक है? It's known as यानी दुनिया से थोड़ा हट जाना. But here, okay, so I would want to say थोड़ा सा हम मॉड्यूल 5 के साथ इसको पैरेलल जा रहे हैं. दुनिया से दूर होना मुराद क्या है, ठीक है? When you define दुनिया, जो सही terms हैं in our religion, दुनिया means anything that is an obstacle in your relationship with God. Obstacle in your relationship with God. So anything that is an obstacle. जी.
But miss, generally not everything has to be an obstacle. Which
Not
means
everything,
मतलब-
exactly. So for example, a person is wealthy, ठीक है? बहुत Hazrat Usman रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु के बारे में क्या आता है? He was very, very wealthy.
Yes.
Did that wealth become an obstacle? No, it actually made him, give that wealth in so much charity that he kept getting more. ठीक है? यानी जितना इंसान देता है, उतना उसको मिलता है वापस, right? That is a promise by
And
Allah,
like
by God.
I suppose that strengthened his relationship with God also.
Exactly. So instead of
Oh,
becoming
miss.
an obstacle, that became a means. Hanji. Ji, Saad.
Miss, when's the last date to submit the assignment?
Assignment का Monday ही है, ठीक है? So human origins की जो assignment है वो Monday है.
मैम तो उसमें मतलब हमें वो पूरा पढ़ना है 30 पेज का और उस पे ऐसे लिखना है.
30 पेज का है?
30 पेज का है जिसमें आपने जो क्वेश्चंस हैं उस हिसाब से आपने आंसर करना है. तो you already know what to focus on. यानी आप क्वेश्चन पढ़ेंगे and you know कि आपने क्या आंसर ढूंढना है उसमें. So it's gonna make it easier, right? Instead कि आप 1, 2, 3, 30 अगर pages पढ़ रहे हैं without any idea of what the article is about. And some of it is just multiple choice. So that's like the
मैम तो
easiest
पहले
thing I could
क्वेश्चन
have
पढ़ें
done.
फिर आर्टिकल पढ़ें.
Yes, you are free to do that. क्योंकि open book है तो आप ये कर सकते हैं, ठीक है? बेशक पहले पढ़ लें क्वेश्चन.
मिस क्वेश्चंस कहाँ आपने अपलोड किए हैं? LMS पे?
जी LMS. जो अनाउंसमेंट है उसी के साथ attached है word file.
Okay, miss.
Okay, anybody else? What? Acha, finding God in form of dance and nature. Chale. Razi is saying yes. So, there is this concept about Qawwali or dance, etc. Even Turkish Sufism has that a little bit. Okay. And of course, there are going to be different understandings about it, right? Muslim seeking to find the truth of divine love. This is the one which I like. Divine love. So love for God, essentially. Okay. Love for God
It's
is what
surrendering yourself before the Almighty and just acting according to His orders.
Okay, so surrendering yourself to God. Acha, so yes, so you have got the right idea, okay? So he's saying basically कि पहली चीज़ है कि immediate experience, which he relates to, the mystic way, is that thing which will get rid of the doubts. The doubts जो थे, ये 3 तरह के doubts. Number 1 can be got rid of through immediate experience. The second thing he says on the second page is necessary knowledge. Because remember we talked about ignorance, remember Jahil Awam, right? So I want you guys to make these connections. कि basically जो आपका वो भी article जो आपने बाद में मैंने उसको postpone कर दिया है about the decline of knowledge, right? And rise of ideology. उसमें भी ignorance is mentioned as one of the greatest problems of humans. Ignorance, not being aware enough. ठीक है? अच्छा, so necessary, now he's saying to gain the necessary knowledge. This is again the middle of the page. second paragraph up keh lein. Similarly, if you understand what it is to be a prophet and have devoted much time to the study of the Quran and the tradition. So you remember, if he's saying that the first type of doubt is, can prophecy occur itself? Is it really possible? The general occurrence of prophecy. So he's saying first you have to understand what it means to be a prophet, right? That means what does it mean to be a leader? A prophet is actually a leader. He's a shepherd. What is he doing, right? What is his purpose on earth? So if you understand what it is to be a prophet and have devoted much time to the study of the Quran and the traditions, you will arrive at a necessary knowledge of the fact that Muhammad is in the highest grades of the prophetic calling. Okay? So yani he is saying कि अगर आपको ये मालूम हो, अगर आप knowledge हासिल करें, it becomes, you gain knowledge and then it becomes necessary knowledge. What does that mean? कि यानी ज़रूर आप एक conclusion पे पहुंचेंगे, ज़रूर इस conclusion पे आप पहुंचेंगे कि the Prophet Muhammad was a prophet, if you understand what it means to be a prophet. So gain some knowledge and then you will gain necessary knowledge through that. That's the way that logic. That's the way logic goes. So if you understand A is equal to B, then you understand B is equal to C. So if you know what it means to be a prophet, then you know that Prophet Muhammad was a prophet, because for sure you will find those attributes in him. So next cheez wo kya kehte hai? Convince yourself of that by trying out what he said about the influence of devotional practices on the purification of the heart. Now he's giving another solution. He's saying act on what he said. So there's certain things that the Prophet said in the hadiths, and he's saying try it out, try them out, act on them, try out all of those hadiths, right? And see कि उसमें आपकी purification of the heart में क्या हो रहा है, आपके दिल पे क्या, qalb पे क्या असर आ रहा है. So you yourself try it again. Okay? So he said, how truly he asserted that whoever lives out what he knows will receive from God what he does not know. How truly he asserted that if anyone aids an evildoer, God will give that man power over him. And how truly he asserted that if a man rises up in the morning with but a single care to please God, यानी कि अगर कोई इंसान सुबह उठता है और उसके ज़हन में सिर्फ एक ख्याल है या एक परेशानी है कि God को please करना है, then God Most High will preserve him from all the cares in this world and the next. So when you have made trial of these in 1,000 or several thousand instances, you will arrive at a necessary knowledge beyond all doubt. So he's saying कि आप ये 1,000 times इन चीजों पर act करें, यानी कि जो कुछ prophet ने कहा तो आप try out करें, वो आप जब करते जाएंगे try out and you keep seeing the truth of them, then when you've done it 1,000 times, you will gain that necessary knowledge. यानी वो necessary knowledge है ना, एक logical terminology है कि वो आप 100% उस conclusion पे पहुंच जाते हैं. ठीक है, that is necessary knowledge. By this method, then seek certainty about the prophetic office and not from the transformation of a rod into a serpent or the cleaving of the moon. So there were some miracles given to the prophets, and he is saying, Imam Ghazali is saying that don't just bank on the miracles, because aapko pata hai na, Dajjal will also have miracles. Dajjal, when he comes, he will show miracles. So interestingly, he's saying that the miracles will not help you when you're having doubts. Those miracles that the prophets were given will not help you. Yes, I mean, that is the part, of proof of their prophethood. But what does he say here? He's saying that, let me read it out for you. So the last page of the reading, it's a very short reading, okay? And chale. By this method, say start करें. For if you consider such an event by itself without taking account of the numerous circumstances accompanying it, circumstances readily eluding the grasp of the intellect, then you might perhaps suppose that it was magic and deception and that it came from God to lead man astray. So again, he's saying that because prophecy is higher than intellect, it might be that you think it's magic and deception. अगर आप miracles के बारे में पढ़ेंगे तो हो सकता है कि वो आपको, it's not a good enough proof for someone, right? So he's saying, thus the topic of miracles will be thrown back upon you, for if your faith is based on a reasoned argument involving the probative force of the miracle, then your faith is destroyed by an ordered argument showing the difficulty and ambiguity of the miracle. अगर आप उस मेडिकल पर बेस्ड आपका फेथ है तो फिर वो फेथ डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाएगा आराम से, अगर कोई आपको उस मेडिकल के बारे में कोई प्रॉब्लमैटिक आर्ग्यूमेंट पेश करेगा, ठीक है ना. So he's saying don't take miracles as the proof of your belief. Instead, it should be immediate experience and it should be necessary knowledge. These are his two answers to dealing with doubts. So, चले अब ये last 2-3 lines
But miss, I have a question.
जी.
मिस अगर मेरिकल्स का मेंशन तो बहुत सारे प्रॉफिट्स के मेरिकल्स का मेंशन तो कुरान शरीफ में भी हुआ है, हजरत ईसा का, हजरत का, तो वो इट मैटर्स राइट, तभी तो miracles of the prophets matter, तभी तो mentioned है.
Yes, बिल्कुल, you're right. अच्छा, अब ये बात लेकिन सुने, you're right. देखिए बात ये है कि वो जो miracles थे ना, वो उस नेशन के लिए particularly important थे, जिनको वो दिखाए जा रहे थे, and of course they're important for us as well because the Quran has been sent to all of time, ठीक है, all of mankind. तो जब हम पढ़ते हैं तो हमें भी पता चलता है उन miracles के बारे में. So definitely they hold a place, but if they are the only things that are making a person believe, मैं इसके बारे में आप थोड़ा और सोचें. Let's suppose a person asks you, why are you Muslim? Will you ever have कभी आंसर होगा इसका miracles of the prophets? I mean, नहीं होगा, right? So this is what he's trying to say. And even if you look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, यानी उनके जो वैसे miracles थे वो बहुत बड़े huge miracle नहीं थे, इस तरह के छोटे छोटे थे, जैसे कि for example, when the companions needed food and water, तो वो इस तरह हुआ कि for example in a well he put his stuff in and a lot of water started flowing out. इस तरह के छोटे miracles हैं. And then cleaving of the moon is one of the biggest ones, but not as big as the ones given to Prophet Musa, Prophet Jesus. तो उसी तरह, that's why there is an entire series of articles on the proofs of prophethood on yaqeeninstitute.org, जहाँ से आपका human origins and divine, reconciling divine will articles दिए गए हैं.
इसको हम उससे भी रिलेट कर सकते हैं ना, कि जैसे हजरत मूसा अलैहिस्सलाम और जो मैजिशियंस थे, तो उनका जो वाक़या हुआ था, उन्होंने ऐसे किया था. मैजिशियंस तो वो तो मैजिशियंस थे, पर हजरत मूसा अलैहिस्सलाम का तो ये मुअज्ज़ज़ा था. तो यानी मैजिशियंस जो थे वो सिर्फ मैजिक पे यकीन रखते थे, तभी उनका बिलीव टूट गया और फिर वो ईमान ले आए. तो हम इसको उससे रिलेट कर सकते हैं.
Exactly. And that shows कि जो miracles prophets को दिए जाते हैं, prophets को, they are different from magic, right? They are truly miracles.
Yes. इसका मतलब ये कह सकते हैं ना कि वो prophets हैं, इस वजह से वो miracles कर सकते हैं. miracles कर सकते हैं, इस वजह से वो prophets नहीं हैं. लेकिन सब prophet miracle कैसे कर देते हैं?
I couldn't understand because of lag.
इसमें ये कह रहा था कि वो प्रॉफिट्स हैं, मतलब हम लोग ये हमारा ये बिलीव होना चाहिए ना कि वो प्रॉफिट्स हैं, इस वजह से उनको मिरेकल करने की उनको जो है ये ताकत है या उनको ये ब्लेसिंग्स हैं, लेकिन वो मिरेकल्स कर सकते हैं, इस वजह से उनको प्रॉफिट नहीं बनाया गया है.
For sure, yes, because they are prophets, they are given those miracles. ठीक है, बिल्कुल 100%. But what he's arguing is not that miracles don't have any say. He's not saying that miracles are not important, because like one of Usman, I think he mentioned, okay, they are mentioned in the Quran, right? It's not that they are not important. However, to bank your faith जो है ना, what is your faith dependent on? Not just the miracles. यानी for example, मैं आपको example देती हूँ. Just hold on, don't say anything yet. मतलब don't ask your question in the middle. Let me complete this point. You remember all of the stories about the prophets in the Quran? They go like कि एक prophet आते हैं और वो इंसानों को जब बताना शुरू करते हैं. The main thing is that human being was a truthful and sincere person. ठीक है, वो सच बोलने वाला इंसान होता है, जिसकी वजह से people start to follow him because he never lied before. Why would he lie now? ठीक है, so he's telling them about a truth, and then the disbelievers ask him for miracles. The disbelievers, the ones who are not believing in him, are asking him for miracles. So he is given miracles by God. God says, fine, I will show you the miracles. the prophets are given those miracles. And again, the ones who believe are those who believe, मतलब एक ही जिन्होंने believe करना है वो कर लेते हैं, जैसे कि वो magicians थे in the time of Musa alayhi salam. And then those who don't want to believe will still not believe. So Pharaoh saw those same miracles, but he didn't believe. Okay? So what he's arguing, of course, देखिए magicians ने तो उन्हीं miracles की base पर believe किया, but particularly for us who are, generations away, we're not seeing those miracles. But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a lot of proof. So one proof was the Quran itself. The Quran itself is the proof of, is a miracle, you can say. The Quran itself is the miracle that was given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was not the type of miracle given to the other prophets. It's slightly different, if you can understand. And then his own characteristics, okay? Yani as a prophet, his attributes, characteristics, those were miracles when you study them, okay? उसके लिए भी आपको study करना पड़ता है. But all of this also comes under necessary knowledge. और बात ये बन जाती है कि all of this signs come, ये जो proof है ना आपके faith का, वो या तो ज़ौक़ है यानी या तो immediate experience है that you know. So for example, can you अब थोड़ा सा 1 minute pause करके आप मुझे बताएं ना. Let's suppose somebody asks you why are you a Muslim. There will be different answers. You will have different answers. लेकिन आपके answers usually इन दोनों के अंदर divide हो जाते हैं. Nobody is going to say it's because of the miracles. This is what I was trying to say. ठीक है. But that is his argument. Muhammad Atta जी, आपने hand raise किया है.
यस मैम, आप बोल रही हैं कि क्या कहते हैं हमें मेरिकल्स पे अपना बिलीव बेस नहीं करना चाहिए, मगर प्रॉफिट्स को मेरिकल्स ये नहीं दिए गए थे क्योंकि कन्विंस करें कि इस्लाम इज द ट्रू रिलीजन.
उनको दिए इसीलिए गए थे क्योंकि प्रूव करने के लिए, ठीक है. और बल्कि उसके बाद जब कोई नहीं बिलीव करता था, it was a bigger issue. That is when they were punished because they were seeing the prophets with the miracles that they had asked for. ठीक है. For example, जो सूरह माइदा है उसमें क्या है कि they asked कि एक पूरा जो है वो दस्तरखान नीचे आए, right? This entire meal should be given to them, and it was given to them, but then they disbelieved even after that. So इसीलिए भेजे गए थे. But what I'm saying is that when belief came, for most people it came even before the miracles. For some, yes, the miracles helped them, but it was not the be all and end all of belief itself. ठीक है ना? यानी people didn't just believe because of the miracles. There were other reasons. So that is what Imam Ghazali is saying here, that believing just in the miracles is not good enough. इसमें एक और story बल्कि मेरे ज़हन में आ रही है, that there was यानी even logic and reasoning, जो कलाम है ना, logic and reasoning सिर्फ जो है ना वो भी काफी नहीं होती. So for example, let me tell you, there is a story about a person who was on his deathbed, and then the shaitan came to him and said that God doesn't exist because of such and such. So he was giving his arguments, and then this person was proficient in kalam, and he was giving his arguments, the logic-based arguments on how and why God exists. And then the shaitan gave another argument, and then he gave another argument. This went on until he was tired, and then one of his teachers came in to visit him, and he explained, he shared this with his teacher, and the teacher said, why didn't you just say to whoever is asking you, why didn't you just say that I believe without any argument? I believe without any argument. तो असल में देखें belief जो है ना ईमान, यानी उसका आप ये देखें definition क्या है, again it is belief in the unseen. So yes, all of these things are going to help, this logic, this kalam, because that is why we studied it, right? In theology में जो ये argumentation है, it is very very important, ठीक है? Because Greek logic, Greek philosophy जब अपने height पर थी, तो तब these things needed to be answered in that manner. इसीलिए वो Greek logic इस्तेमाल करके Mathurides ने answer किया था. The miracles are also important. However, even higher from all of these, according to Imam Ghazali, are these two: necessary knowledge, कि जब आप खुद act करते हैं उन चीज़ों पे जो prophet ने कही, and you see the truth in them, so then no matter what anybody says, you have witnessed the truth. You have witnessed the truth of whatever the prophet said 1,000 times, so then it doesn't matter. Anybody can say anything to you, but you believe your faith gets stronger. And immediate knowledge again is, you know, any spiritual, it can be any spiritual feeling. It could be maybe you went for Umrah, maybe in Ramadan you went to some talk which was maybe about love for God, it affected you, something spiritual, right? Which is not easily explainable, but it is your immediate knowledge. You experienced it immediately. So these two things are stronger when it comes to dispelling doubts. Okay, so this is what Imam Ghazali is saying. We're going to end. If there are any more questions, you can ask. But I hope that's a bit clearer now. It's not that miracles are not important, and you know, even logic and critical reasoning and kalam, all of these things are important, and they have their own place. But when a person is doubting, they already know about the miracles, right? How can that person dispel doubts? This is his answer.
मैम जो आपने कहा कि जो एक्सपीरियंस होता है और फिर उसके हिसाब से फिर हमें बिलीफ आता है जो स्पिरिचुअल होता है, तो वो इटसेल्फ भी तो एक मिरेकल फिर हो जाएगा ना, तो मतलब
Yes, बिल्कुल, definitely you're right, because ये जो इमाम गजाली की रीडिंग है, it was yeah, I think the first reading in module 5, first reading in module 5, which is autobiography. And even when he is writing about his doubt, when he was filled with this doubt, he says that after 2 months, God filled his heart with the light. So again, you know, that itself would be a miracle, right? I mean, to understand that it doesn't have to be like, I know when we read these things or listen to them, it's like mere saath to nahi hua kabhi bhi, right? इंसान ये सोचता है. But a lot of times it's about where and how you're looking. If you look in the right place, you can see this happening to each and every one of us. हमारे साथ भी कई मर्तबा ऐसा कुछ होता है which we're unable to sort of, you know, look at and say that this is something special that has happened. So it really, it depends on how we're looking. And sometimes it doesn't have to happen at all. यानी कोई unexplained चीज नहीं होती, बहुत logical, pragmatic कोई चीज होती है. But that becomes sort of your immediate knowledge. It doesn't have to be like a very, you know, spiritual, means like something very unearthly or something. It doesn't have to be like that, because that is, I think, one of the beauties of Islam is that all of the mundane life, you know, our mundane activities are supposed to have a sacred significance. They still have a sacred significance. Anybody who wants to leave can leave. I don't understand why Travis Scott आप जो है ना बार बार आपको ये शौक हो रहा है करने का, आप या तो क्लास में ना आए, मुझे तो ये नहीं समझ आती कि आप क्लास में फिर क्यों आते हैं. Like you shouldn't come to class at all then if you're not interested, you know. So because there's not even any attendance policy इस semester में, तो आपको तो आने की जरूरत नहीं है. चलें.
मैम एक चीज मुझे हीलिंग सेल्फ हीलिंग सोसाइटी से शेयर करनी थी, तो वो मैं कर लूं?
Yes, sure.
मैम तो उसमें जो एंड की तरफ उन्होंने कहा था 7 डेडली सिंस के बारे में उन्होंने बात की थी कि कोल्ड सिंस और हॉट सिंस. तो कोल्ड सिंस जैसे प्राइड वगैरह, तो ये जो होते हैं हम ओवरलुक कर देते हैं और इसको मतलब हम अच्छा समझते हैं, वी कंसीडर देम गुड. और हॉट सिंस में हम मतलब अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं. फिर उन्होंने एंड में कहा था कि जैसे अर्थ का जो एंड होगा वो या तो फायर से होगा और आइस विल सफाइस. सो दैट मींस दैट either it will be because of our hot sins or cold sins. So ये एक मुझे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है.
Yes, for sure. Yes. Because बिल्कुल, क्योंकि इंसान आप देखें, इवन शैतान का जो sin था वो pride था. The main sin that led to his fall was pride, which he did not want to give up even later, or did not want to do tawbah from, didn't want to take it back, sort of. He was adamant on his pride, okay, that I am better than you. So yes, pride is one of those scary things that can creep up at any time. That sort of we need to pray even to God to save us from it, right? And again, takdeer is also one of the things. Again, if you remember कि कदर का भी जो एक positive चीज है वो यही है कि pride से बचाता है, because a lot of things, a lot of who we are just as a person, whoever we are, is because of the situations that we were given in this world. So फिर pride कहाँ से आए? I mean, there is actually no place for pride, but unfortunately इंसान proud हो जाता है about many things. पर
ये इसमें उसको सोसाइटी मतलब अच्छा कंसिडर करने लगती है कोल्ड सिंस को, क्योंकि वो उतने हार्मफुल उसके इफेक्ट्स अपेरेंट नहीं होते जितने हॉट सिंस के होते हैं जो बिगर सिंस हैं.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That is an important point. And
मिस
anybody
जो
else?
असाइनमेंट है वो सॉफ्ट कॉपी में सबमिट करना है या हार्ड कॉपी में?
Okay, so you have to submit it on LMS. आपको submission folder नजर आ जाएगा soon, and you should submit as a Word file. ठीक है? So make sure it's a Word file, not PDF. And another, yes, I think I forgot to tell you. चले मैं अभी बताती हूँ कि 12 size होना चाहिए font का, and single spaced please. ठीक है? Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, you will have to type
Yeah,
it.
ma'am, I have a
Mohammed
question.
Zain. Ji, Mohammed Zain, we will have to type it. I remember the first assignment I did in LUMS, I had also written it. Many people अपने handwrite किया था. But yes, you will have to type all your assignments in IBA. ठीक है? So university level पे, it's hard to read, and yeah, it's sort of funny कि आप अपनी handwriting पे इतना काम करते हैं बचपन में, and then by the time you reach undergrad, you're supposed to type everything. But yes, please type it and send it as a Word file. Ji, Nimra, you had to ask a question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
या मुझे उसी वाले वीडियो के से बात करनी है, जैसे उन्होंने इनिशियली कहा था कि अगर हम if we do something bad, like doing something bad and then being punished by God, like by any possible way, is better because the repercussions let you know that you're doing wrong. I mean, ये सब repercussions हैं क्या जो भी हमारे साथ अगर हो जाते हैं, जैसे कोई bigger problems हैं, तो ये सब ऐसा repercussion आ रहा है हमारे ऊपर?
Okay, that's a very good question. देखें, usually scholars इसको इस तरह से समझाते हैं कि let's suppose we are faced with a bad situation. Let's suppose we are faced with some kind of test, ठीक है, in this दुनिया. How are we going to look at it? The question is कि हम क्या इसको repercussion लेंगे या as a punishment लेना चाहिए, क्या लेना चाहिए, ठीक है? So the idea is that no matter what it is, no matter if it's a repercussion of our own actions or others' actions, yeah, it was just a means of us maybe becoming a better person. Yani reward हमें मिलेगा, okay? So it could be something positive. The scholars focus on, the scholars focus on our reaction to it. So whenever we're in trouble, how are we going to react, or how are we going to act? ठीक है? Everything will matter according to this. Yani कि let's suppose even if it was I did something wrong, and even if I was punished and I'm in a difficult situation. Now, at that point, when I'm in that difficult situation, do I become closer to God or do I turn further away? ये दो option है, या तो
I
आप
guess
और
it
करीब हो.
depends person to person.
No, you're right, but then that is when the free will is. यानी कि ऐसा हो सकता है कि let's suppose मेरा दिल जो है वो थोड़ा खराब हो जाए. Let's suppose I'm giving my own example कि मेरा थोड़ा दिल खराब होता है and I feel that I'm turning away from God. ठीक है? पहले मैं दुआ करी थी, अब मेरे से दुआ नहीं हो रही. Let's suppose, ठीक है? But when I hear about this, I will force myself to make dua, in the sense that I know that my benefit is in getting closer to God, that I make this situation an opportunity in which it will be a win-win situation, that I am going to win in either case, even if it was a punishment in the first place. So I will, sit in front of God and I will make dua to Him and pour my heart out to Him that, whatever, यानी आप feel करते हैं, hurt feel करते हैं अपने दिल में, तो आप just talk to God instead of other people and share that with Him, that yes, I am hurt, but I want to be closer to you. I don't want this to become something in which my relationship with you is hampered. ठीक है? तो वो जब हम ये realize कर लें कि असल में हमने, even if it's a punishment, it will become a means of my becoming closer to God. तो वो इसीलिए ना Rumi ने and some other Sufis, they have said these things, that anything that takes me back to God is a blessing. So वो punishment को भी blessing लेते थे, because they understood that my reaction is what matters. So when that you change that free will into turning back to God, you ask Allah, He make this, a means of me becoming closer to you, and I want to be closer to you. Just ask Him to make. Sometimes we just can't help it. Sometimes we feel so far away. Lekin, another very interesting saying by someone is that whenever you feel far away from God, whenever you feel He's very distant, guess who turned away? Just guess who turned away, because God never turns away. God is always there waiting for us to turn back to Him. So who is it who turned away? It's actually
Yes, exactly.
it's ourselves, right?
It's
Now there's a lag at my end. थोड़ा सा, I think. Okay, Ji Hamza.
Yes, will we be having a class at 8:30 tomorrow, or will it be merged?
Do you want a
नहीं
class
10 बजे
at
होगी
8:30? Does it help anyone?
नो मैम नो 8:30 वाली नहीं 10 बजे रखते
I mean, it's just because there is this possibility of merging classes, or मैं 10 o'clock रख सकती हूँ. Other instructors have done
ही
that.
मिस 10 o'clock
जब possible है, मतलब जब ये possible है, then I would like to take that opportunity, because you don't have a clash. Usually होता है कि एक class तक clash हो रहा होता है, so it's not possible. तो इसलिए 10 AM ही होगा कल भी, ठीक है?
Okay, miss.
जी मोहम्मद असलम.
मैम मुझे पूछना था क्या मुझे असाइनमेंट पे एक्सटेंशन मिल सकता है? इस हफ्ते मेरे पास 3 बोर्ड के एग्जाम्स है and I'll be traveling out of country.
अच्छा, you're the ones who asked me last week too, right? आपको जो exam है, or was it someone
I
else?
don't think so. I asked you, ma'am.
जी?
Yeah, I think so. It was someone else. I didn't ask you before this one.
अच्छा, so you will have to email me, ठीक है, as khalid@iba.edu.bk. आप मुझे email करें अपना ERP नाम and the problem that you have. Email me and I will respond, inshallah. ठीक है?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. If no more questions, we're going to end class then.
ओके मैम अल्लाह हाफिज
Okay.
हाफिज.